Hello. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Christy. People are making their way in here. So everybody have a moment to get in. Hi, Anne. Good to see y'all. Not sure how many we'll have today, but we'll give everybody a minute to join and then we'll get started. And we are recording, so that's good. So people can listen to the playback. Okay. Happy almost Ash Wednesday in season of Lent. That starts tomorrow. Okay. All right. I think we'll go ahead and get started. And if anybody else joins, then I'll just let them in as we go here. Hello. Okay. I'm going to start in prayer today. I won't put you guys on the spot since we're a short group unless somebody wants to, but I will, I'm happy to lead us as we get going here. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time that we come together, Lord. What a miraculous design you have made for our body, Lord. And we're just here to honor it, honor the design that you have made, take better care of it, be better stewards of this body, Lord. And we ask that throughout this entire detox, that we're just really keeping that in mind, putting you first, doing this as something for the stewardship of as our overall body. And we ask you and invite you into this time and in each day as we're going through this, Lord, the highs and the lows. What a mirror of life, Lord. Just give us the strength to keep moving forward when we're having some issues, having those challenges. And we just thank you. We just thank you for your son, Jesus. And we are especially grateful and mindful as we move into this season of Lent. It is in your son's name we pray. Amen. Okay, my friends. Well, we are wrapping up step 2, moving into step 3. Again, everybody's in a little bit of a different place. I would love to hear where you are, whether you want to just hop on and talk to me or put it in the chat. I really don't like when I'm the only person talking. I'll just say that, but that's okay if you don't want to talking. But at least talk to me in the chat and tell me where you are with your steps that you're on. So maybe we can, okay, last week is step 2. Okay, cool. That will just give me help me kind of know maybe
I'm
where
halfway through step 2.
Okay.
We are most of the way through step 2.
You're halfway through?
Most of the way. Like, I think we have about another week.
Another week. Okay. Okay, we have some more people joining. Okay, y'all, how's it going?
Have you even noticed? My husband's going through it with me, but I don't think neither one of us have felt like there's much going on.
Oh, you might consider yourself lucky considering some other people are having some issue.
Yeah.
We're not,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Not complaining?
We're not complaining.
Not complaining. No, we are not complaining. No.
Good. You never know. I've told y'all some people are like, feel like they want to get their money's worth and they want to feel something. And just because you don't feel something or maybe even see something doesn't mean it's not doing anything. I just want to reiterate that. And for those of you that are feeling something and maybe feeling it a little too much, like bloating or something like that, again, some of these lows are just, they're not fun. They're just part of it. And there's just no way to sugarcoat it. There's just not. And it's really hard to predict who is going to feel what, experience what. Welcome to those who just hopped on. I asked everybody to put in the chat or hop on and talk to me because I love when we get to talk either way, but where you are with your step. we still in step 2? Anybody started step 3?
We have like 3 days until step 3.
Okay.
So
How are y'all doing?
we haven't noticed much change
Okay.
really from the entire thing.
Okay. Well, like I was just saying with
So-
Christy, not always a bad thing. There are people that would like to trade places and not feel bad.
We did, I was gonna say, we did both get the flu,
Oh,
like a week ago or something, but it seemed normally when I get hit with something, I'm down for a lot longer. So we're thinking it helped us through that, but
mhm. Yeah, it
I
can.
don't know.
It can be helpful for that, for sure. It kind of depends. I mean, for some people, it may not because we are, again, remember that we are stirring up so much stuff in the system, right? We're pulling toxins, but we're also stirring a lot of stuff up and we're making a lot of these little critters mad. And so there's just a lot going on in your body. And everybody's going to handle it a little differently. But it's interesting to hear kind of how you're making your way through it.
When we don't have that much going on, is that an indication that we don't have a whole lot of toxins that we're trying to get rid of, or?
No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. I mean, we're all exposed to pretty good toxic loads, right, through different ways. Like I've said before, there's been people that I was like, ooh, this is gonna be hard on her. And then, sail right through it. And then some people I'm like, oh, she's gonna sail right through it and then it'd be really hard. I never nail that correctly. So it doesn't necessarily mean one thing or the other. It's just your body might be processing things efficiently and being able to move them out. And it's not even a blip on the radar for you. And that's okay. It's definitely pushing stuff out. Just remember, and I don't know if you are even looking, but most of the things coming out we can't see. I know some of you are seeing some things, but most of the things coming out you're not going to be able to see with the naked eye. So we are purging things out and such.
So I did notice for several weeks that I had like yellow specks in my poop, but I didn't see any parasite listed that would represent what I saw.
Okay. All right. I don't know what that is offhand. Sometimes some of the specs can be the Mimosa pudica, the pair 1. If it came and went, probably not. If you kind of see it regularly, could be that. Also, I know some of you experienced could be neg, Julie says. Some of the mucoid plaque that comes, I always like do this because I'm thinking of these long strands of, gunky stuff that come out. The mucoid plaque is especially common when we start, step 2, and we talked about that last time. It's just really kind of cleansing off the intestinal walls. Things are getting wrapped up, caught up, and remember the para 1 is, it's different than a binder, but I think of it almost like a binder where it's going in and grabbing a bunch of stuff. And so that those things can be coming out, for sure. But like I made a comment in the group, it's, always say, like Shrek says, better out than in, for sure. I'm just gonna share my screen here and go over to the questions. Let's pop over to the questions. Let's see, where are we? We are here. Okay. I'm gonna make sure we address the questions, and then we can kind of talk about wrapping up step 2 and going to step 3. You're welcome to jump in with any questions that you have too. Okay, Erin is asking, should we stay on step 2 if we are still seeing several parasites daily? No, Erin, I would finish it up and then go ahead and move on to step 3 because we'll still be pushing those out. And para 3 is stronger, and they're all, like I said, all of the paras are working generally, or para 2, 3, and 4 are working overall generally on parasites, and then each one has a little bit of a specialty in what it's targeting. but they're all working on them overall in general. And so just I would progress. Now, if somebody was, if it was just a lot gushing, a lot, you're seeing a ton of stuff, maybe I would sit in a step a little longer, a couple a day, probably not. But if you're seeing a lot, I have recommended before that people stay in a step a little bit longer. Just FYI. Okay, Melissa, at what step or point in this process do people start feeling a lot better or relief from the issues that prompted them to do the foundational protocol? Oh, Melissa, that's really hard to say for sure. Is Melissa on here? I don't think she is. It sounds kind of desperate, like you want, you want something to be done. So I wish I don't know if we talked about it before. I'm not remembering maybe kind of what prompted you to come in and do it. I would just keep in mind that, we are at what, 2 months in. And when we think, especially if nobody's done anything like this before, and like I said, there's very few things like this, which is why I like this protocol, that is not just working on the gut and the parasites and systemic pathogens, right? Not just in the gut, but everywhere. But also the toxins at the same time, being truly a detox that's going in and grabbing toxins out. And so when we think of how long and how much buildup we could have had over all of these years, it can take a while. And again, some people may be like Christy and her husband. They're just bopping right through it, and it's not, not too disruptive or too big of a deal. And some people are like, I am so bloated and miserable, and that is hard. That's tough. And we'll talk about maybe what some things that we can do if that is you. But it's not uncommon. Again, any kind of side effect is really on the table here. And the kind of bloating stuff it is a common one. Okay, Diane, I think Diane meant this question for the Christian Health Club because we're about to start Feast to Fast and we are talking about stuff like that. So I will address that with her in the other group. Okay. And then Melissa is also asking, is there ever a scenario where you should collect the worm or the weird stuff coming out and have it tested to see exactly what it is? I've never had anybody do that. Never thought about doing that. I generally, I don't think that's necessary unless something was super alarming to you and you just wanted to know. That's interesting thought. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just go through a few of these that were not, this is where, just so y'all know, when we post these, before our monthly calls, just trying to gather all the questions in one place, it just makes it easier for me to find them, and then just so we can make sure we get to them. But of course you can post some questions throughout the month. And so I just want to go through a couple of these because Shirley was asking, she started taking Metabolic Activator, which is Cellcore's iodine supplement, and I like it because it's in very, very small amounts. But Shirley, it was a little too stimulating for Shirley. And it's just another good lesson that we all react to different things. And so if you are a kind of a sensitive Sally, generally speaking, when it comes to supplements, never a bad idea to start low and slow, right? Half dose, introduce something by itself, see how you do, all that good stuff. Julie says in the chat, random, but I saw 2 reels this morning talking about finding parasites in autopsies of MS patients. Interesting. There are a lot of things out there that can be correlated, related. I think the Cellcore docs, so a lot of times we say caused by parasites, they attribute a lot of things to parasites that are, might be thought of for other reasons. Certainly they can be extremely disruptive of the body's process for healing and taking care of things. Having really these pathogens in the body, whether it's dysbiotic bacteria, right? The bad bacteria, that's just, we have an overgrowth, or it's a parasite, or maybe it's, overgrowth of yeast, whatever it is, it's very just disrupted to the entire terrain. It's stressful. And so this alone, having these can keep your body in more of that fight or flight if it's having to deal with this threat all the time. And it makes it very difficult to heal anything when your body, and I'm not saying this is not the only thing that can keep you in fight or flight, right? Any kind of stress, but this is an overlooked, underappreciated source of constant, what we would call chronic stress, toxic overload, these pathogens that are in there just really wreaking havoc. And it keeps our nervous system just on high alert, and we really can't heal with a nervous system that is just in that sympathetic state all the time, that fight or flight. So again, I think we always want to be keeping the big picture in mind when we're doing this, and just remembering this is a big picture kind of protocol, and that we are just trying to reduce these very disruptive, stressful things on the body, and just balance out and overall take care of our terrain. And we always want to be also supporting the terrain of our body, just our cells, the inner workings of our cells, with nourishing foods, with sunlight, with clean water, all of those things, because we want to make our body an inhospitable place to host these parasites or these bacteria. And so the more dysregulated our inner terrain is, which can be caused by a lot of things, stress, or all the poor food choices, or over-the-counter medications, or toxic overload, all these things over the years of the body can really, this is why it's so different for different people. Some people just have a different terrain in the body, and kind of how resilient it might be or non-resilient. So just keep that in mind, right? And we are just overloaded with toxins so much more today than we ever have been in history. And those toxins alone, if you watch the videos, can trigger something that maybe wasn't really, maybe not have been harmful. Some of these bacteria and such to become harmful, right? Or to flare up a virus or whatever it may be. These toxins can kind of push them over the edge, make them morph into something that they really weren't meant to be. So those are just all the kind of underpinnings of what we're doing here. So I'd just like to remind you of that, because I know it's still a lot of effort to go through this, right? Taking the supplements, and whether you're seeing something or not, or feeling the side effects or not, either way, you're like, is this working? Is this doing anything? I don't know. But it really is. It really is. I just want to encourage you. And I'm just want to give you a clap, because you are still making your way through. I encourage you to see it to the end, because remember, we are building with each step. Some people don't make it all the way to step 4. They throw in the towel because it's uncomfortable, or maybe like, well, I don't see it doing anything, but it's doing something, and it's all working together. So I just want to keep you encouraged to keep going with it. Okay, but I got sidetracked there. Metabolic activator. And that is something that that's not part of the protocol. That's just something you could bring in later. But I do like it as a very, just a very low dose, simple iodine to add into the diet. That's when I give to my daughter daily. After I had Dr. Brownstein, who's an iodine expert, on my podcast, talking about how really critical it is for teenage girls to have iodine.
So I've got a question. Maybe I misunderstood you, but so are you saying that these supplements that we're taking will make any bacteria or virus that we might have in our body more active, so that we could get sick because of it? Or
no, what were this? You mean the supplements?
Yeah.
Well, no, what we're trying to do is take away the toxic burden that could do that. But I will say right now, when we're stirring a bunch of things up inside the body,
Mm-hmm.
for some people, like somebody asked about getting their blood work done, right? I don't know if y'all saw that in the feed, and they were like, "Oh, my cholesterol was up," because we're stirring a bunch of stuff up. Inflammation is up.
Okay.
Okay, on one hand. Okay, so inflammation can be up, but on the other hand, we are taking these things that are taking care of it. So it's kind of, it can stir things up, make things a little bit more inflammatory, a little bit more stressful for a while, but on the other hand, it's also fighting it at the same time, if that makes sense. Um, okay, Julie's asking, is there anything comparable to metabolic activator on full script? Oh, probably. I mean, you could use a low dose of like the Lugol's, probably, and that would be fine. And I'm sure there's a version on full script that you could use. This is just, I just like the other things that come with this one, with the metabolic activator. It's got some, it's got selenium, it's got some nice other supportive minerals alongside it, which is helpful too. But yeah, you could use just the low dose is just one of the things I really like too. You want to be careful with iodine. Most people really do need iodine, but they used to have Cellcore used to have a tablet, and it was too much. And when you haven't had iodine in a while, it can come in and really kick some things up as it's trying to displace like fluoride and bromide and such. And it could be hard on somebody that's having thyroid issues. So low and slow is the way to go. All right, Krista, walking with her husband and 2 sons through phase 1. Woo, family, the whole fam. Let me see. Open that up. My husband has been reacting allergically when taking pills, histamine type reaction. He has severe allergies, has been on allergy meds daily for almost 20 years. So a lot of that, right? We want to get the gut right. Having a lot of allergies is definitely a sign of some gut dysbiosis. Muscle testing, it seemed that Kale support may not agree with him. It seems that this one has been the problem. I've had him cut back, but he's very much the type that would just push through. What is best for his body? I'm wondering if the inflammation is causing his outweigh the ability to detox. Also wondering if red light on his face may help with inflammation and associated with histamine reaction. Ideas for how we should continue. So it did answer her here, but just wanted to make sure that you saw that. If you do think, again, if you think one of the supplements is causing issue, like if you are just really, really having a hard time, remember that we have our options. We can low dose, reduce the dose on things. You can stop and reintroduce one at a time and see if that is the issue. If you do have somebody that does some muscle testing, you could do it that way too. Try to figure it out. So there are options, through. And sometimes it's hard to say, do we just push through it? Or do we dial it back? It's really going to be individual. But I told her, if she does know that's what it is, then take it out, and you might just have some other support, like some liver support. And if somebody already had the TUDCA, like if you'd already ordered the whole foundational protocol, I'd bring in the TUDCA early. I think we talked about that last time too. Okay. And then I think Krista, somewhere else, we were also talking about bloating. There was one about hormones. It can definitely, kick your hormones around a little bit. Oh no, it was Chris. That's what we were talking about. So we're not Chris. Okay. So we were talking about bloating and how we might what can we do to kind of help the bloating? Because it's not unusual for bloating to be a side effect. So one thing you could do if it's just persisting, not going away, you could dial back dosages, particularly maybe the paras. That could be one thing. Sometimes the bloating can be that we're kicking up all this stuff in the body, the drainage pathways are just not keeping up. And so another option is that we could increase drainage. And so our drainage products are like if you have the bowel mover, if you're not pooping well, definitely need to make sure we're using something to support the pooping. The KL support is a drainage. There's a drainage activator that doesn't come with the foundational protocol, but it's an additional. If somebody really thought they were having drainage issues, you could add in drainage activator at any point. Also, Tuca. Tuca is a great drainage one as well, very supportive of the liver. So we could increase those drainage things. But also one thing that your body will tend to do is hold on to water. So if it's not getting rid of some of this junk that we're trying to push out quick enough, one of the things that your body could do is just hold on to water, really just to kind of dilute it. There's a saying that the solution to pollution is dilution. And so the body can hold on to water as a way to just kind of dilute the toxicity of it until the body can really push it through. And so other things that you could do, generally speaking, so you could adjust your levels, right? You could add in some more drainage. You could drink like you could support the liver, and something you could do is like drink just like a detox tea that has like some milk thistle or something like that. Especially, well, I don't know, Krista, if the kale support, there's probably milk thistle in there. I can't remember. I think there is milk thistle in there. But like like a liver detox tea, like kind of a good brand like Traditional Medicines or something organic, that's not a bad idea just as an extra support. You could kind of sip on that. Castor oil packs can help with the bloating, help with drainage. There are some homeopathy options that you might look at. There's one that's called like Nux vomica or something like that that can be helpful. I don't do a lot with the homeopathy, but I know there are some options out there. And so some of you that might be into homeopathy, if you could find some of those, I know those work well for people, like specifically for bloating, constipation, stuff like that. Epsom salt baths, topical magnesium, all those things can be helpful and supportive for bloating. Julie's saying a vibration plate. Yes, love that for shaking up the lymphatic system. And we talk more about that in step 4 as well. But yeah, when we get to we bring in Lymphactive and really start pushing on the lymph system. But you could do those supportive things now: dry brushing, castor oil packs, vibration plate, or doing the like a rebounder, like jumping up and down. Exercising, just moving those things, the sauna, all of those things, those kind of adjunct things that we can be doing can be helpful. So I know that the bloating is just really uncomfortable and it's not fun. It's kind of miserable. And I am sorry.
Chelsea, thank you. That was my question. So thank you for addressing that. I think some other people were asking about that as well. So that is helpful. But it's funny because like I had 5 solid days of it and now it's kind of subsided the last couple days. So is that kind of common? The ebb and flow of your body going like in step 3, could it come back? That kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay.
It absolutely could. Yes. Each step is like a whole new ball game. And like I said, I made a comment somewhere. I was really shocked that so many people had trouble with step 1 this time around and were, doing a little bit better in step 2. But yes, it can certainly ebb and flow. You can be like, oh, this is great. And then the next week, like, holy cow. And again, because as we're addressing these parasites, they're in different stages, we've got eggs, we've got little teenagers, we've got full blown, they got biofilms, we're working through those. So there's just a lot of stuff happening. And so you just kind of never know when you're going to finally get one, kill it off, and what's going to be coming out and happening. So yes, that is very, very normal. Okay. Monica's asking, what is the mechanism that makes cholesterol levels rise during the protocol? Inflammation, just inflammation. Remember, cholesterol, despite it being labeled the bad guy, really comes in as a rescuing mechanism. And when it sees some inflammation, it will have a little bit more of a cholesterol release and movement in the body. And so it can just be part of that. But that's really common, is for cholesterol to be higher. When somebody's sick, even, just had the flu. I had a client one time, she had her blood work done and we went over it and she was like, oh my gosh, my cholesterol is so high. And she was really concerned about it. So we started talking through, I'm like, have you been sick recently? And she just had COVID. I'm like, that's what it is. So just know that if you ever have blood work done, and sometimes it's an inconvenient time, you may not have a choice, but just know that can be the case. So try not to get too overwhelmed with that snapshot of that time period if you have been sick, or especially if it's unusual for you to have, you see like quite a swing and that's unusual for you. There was probably some kind of instigator, but certainly this can be one of them. Okay. And it's asking, do any drainage support supplements have to be taken separate from the Para 1 and Para 2? If I feel I need it, I usually take it right before bed. Definitely want to take it away from Para 1. Want to keep things away from Para 1 because, again, I think of it as kind of like that binding snowball rolling down the mountain, just kind of taking things up with it as it goes. It makes everything gelatinous, just thicker and stuff. So you just want to take it away from things. That's a good question. Okay, I think that's all we've got in the chat. And let's see. Okay, good. All right, so we're wrapping up step 2. So it sounds like most of you are at least halfway through or making your way through it. And I will say, maybe not everybody, because we do have people that join the group and are, maybe just starting step 1. Like I said, I've opened the group. We officially start the protocol in September and January, but we have people that join kind of anytime. And so if you're here and you are just starting or you're further along, please feel free to jump in and ask for questions about any of the steps. But kind of most of the group is wrapping up step 2 here, and do finish all of your supplements here. And then we are going to pop into step 3, and now we have 5. So just another thing to keep up with. Yay. This time when we move into step 3, we'll be keeping Para 1 away from everything else. Remember, we want to keep it at least 30 minutes before or 2 hours after. Okay. And these are better. The TUDCA is better they put with food. You don't have to have it with food. It will work to support breaking down your fats when you have it with food, but you don't have to. But if you need support in that area, like somebody without a gallbladder, who I always recommend, if you do not have a gallbladder, to at least try some kind of support and see if that helps you, because once you remove your gallbladder, it can be very hard to break down fats, absorb fat soluble vitamins. And so a bile support can be helpful. And I think I shared with y'all, there's one called Beta Plus that's kind of nice for ongoing, and it's not as expensive as the TUDCA, but the TUDCA is fantastic. And when you get to step 3, I put in there just all the research on TUDCA and all of the wonderful things it does for your body. It is a really great supplement. And I think I also told y'all they used to have it in step 1, but it was just a little too powerful for people. So they moved it to step 3. So you can take it without food. That's not a hard rule right there, but you might feel better with it, especially if it's you want to help with breaking down fat, or if you're somebody that's a little more sensitive, it might be a little strong for you on an empty stomach. Personally, I like to take it on empty stomach because I feel like it helps me poop better. So there's one for you if you are struggling with constipation. That can be very helpful, and it would be more helpful for that if you don't take it with food.
So Chelsea, if you take the TUDCA on an empty stomach, do you take it separate from the others? The CT minerals, do you
No,
take the
you
other
don't have
stuff with food, or do you take them all without the food?
You could take it all without the food. You can take the TUDCA with the other ones.
Okay. And then I have a hard time taking pills early in the morning and late at night. And so I usually take my pills with like a thick, also I'm blanking on the word, kefir. And, can I take the Para 1 and Para 2 with the kefir to get them down, or is that a bad idea?
It would be better not to.
Okay. Okay. That's
It
what I
would be-
thought. I'll just
It would be
feel.
if you can avoid it, I would. But if it's like the only way you can make it happen, then it's okay. But I mean, it would ideally keep that away.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I want to kind of isolate Para 1 as much as possible. So when we move into step 3, we are bringing in some new things here, right? We're bringing in Para 3, which is probably the strongest para, and it's especially strong because it's a tincture, so it just works a little bit more quickly and powerfully. The TUDCA, the Virad Chem. So remember that the Virad Chem binder, it's a new binder, and it is 1/3 biotoxin binder. So you've been taking biotoxin, so it's 1/3 biotoxin, it's 1/3 Virad Chem, its own thing, and then it's 1/3 HMET, which is the binder we will take in step 4. So that's why this is the binder that I generally recommend for maintenance, because it's kind of a third. It's a little bit of a blend of all of them. And it's just kind of a nice all-around binder to have. But all the biotoxins are nice all around too, but I kind of alternate between them. So that's a new binder, and then we're going to continue with the Para 1, which needs to be taken away. Now, I just had this thought today, and I can't believe I've never thought of this before, but one thing when it comes to Para 3, you take it it's one that can be taken for 3 weeks, and then you need to take a break. Okay, when we're doing it in the context of the foundational protocol, and if we're just doing it for step 3, you can take it into step 4 if you want to, but because you'll have plenty of leftover, and it's nice to have leftover. There's a lot of uses for it. It's nice to have on hand, but you do it for 3 weeks on and 1 week off. And I don't know why I've never considered this before, but one thing that you could do, and especially if you're sensitive, is to introduce everything else but Para 3, get everything else under your belt for a week, and then bring it in. So normally what we do is we start, all of these with the Para 3, and then people take the break at the end in the 4th week, right? But what we can do, and might be better, is to take the break on the front end and have your 3 weeks be at the end. And that way you're trying all these other supplements, the other ones that we're introducing, like the TUDCA, the Virad Chem, and just kind of getting those under your belt before we bring in the super big gun. That's just an option. And literally, I cannot believe I've never thought of that before till today, literally. And it's a good one. I think it's a good option, actually, for people. So just having the break on the front end and doing the 3 solid weeks after you've started. Okay. Yes, Nori. She said, please remind us what Para 1 is doing in the body. Is it raking everything out of our intestines? I really like that phrase. Yes, that is what it's doing, basically. It is like raking things out of the intestine, just kind of balling it up. Once it gets in there, it's kind of gelatinous, and it's really kind of, like I said, binding things up and attracting a lot of the junk that's being released. So yeah, that's what it's doing. So we're going to continue on with Para 1 and step 3. Okay. Why does one need to take a break from para 3? It's just very strong. And so we just need to give the body a little bit of a break from it. And you can take a week off and then you can bring it back in. And that's fine. It just need to like cycle that one off every once in a while. But it's a good one to have. Like I said, you will have a lot left over and you can continue it in step 4. You can just set it aside if you ever want to do a full moon cleanse and you have one. I like it when it's if I feel like I'm getting sick. That's a good one to use. Also, just kind of go in there and kill things off. It is just another it's just going in and specifically killing off a bunch of parasites, a bunch of junk, right? Just a bunch of the junk. In here, let's see. Let's go look in here. Of course, we'll have all the you can take a look specifically as you want. There's a good video on para 3 in here that will give you more details. But each of these just have a little bit of a different, they have different ingredients, different blends of ingredients. But because it is so strong, here it says that due to the potency, that's why we want to cycle it off. And if you watch the videos, you will see that it can be used with distilled water as a nasal rinse. If you do that, use 1 drop. Start with 1 drop. So, a lot of times, a lot of sinus stuff, ongoing sinus stuff can be related to parasites. And so if someone, you or someone in your family that's going through this, this could be a good way to do that. And like I think I told y'all this in the beginning, like people have had parasites come out of their nose, out of their corners of their eyes. There's one video, somebody it was like moving across her cheek. Ooh, that was nuts. I mean, it's really bizarre the places they could be. So, but you can do a nasal rinse with it, but I would just use 1 drop, or you might feel like your brain's on fire. If you could tolerate that, fine, you could up it, but just don't put like a dropper full. Oh my heavens, your brain might like blow out of your ear. Okay. So, okay, yeah, so you could still see some parasites for sure with this, because this is even more potent. Yes, absolutely. And I, don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but this para 3 is one where a lot of people are like, oh, I don't feel that great. So you might, I don't know what the timing will be for you, but when you do start it, you might want to start it over a weekend. I think it's a good idea. It's always kind of a nice idea when you're starting a new set, if you can kind of time it over the weekend. So if you are going to have an immediate, more acute, like, oh, reaction to it, then at least it's a weekend and it's not, a full work day, but that doesn't always work out. But you might consider it with para 3. If you listen to any podcasts I did, like the one I did with Dawn that I posted, this was the one that kind of kicked his booty a little bit, and not the whole time, just for a little bit, that it can. But it may not. Again, you just never know. Okay, Chris, so let's talk through, let's see, Chris is asking, can you talk through an ideal schedule when someone has a morning med and an evening med? Yes, I can. Let's go back to step 3, Chris. Yeah. Because it is tricky, right, with the para 1. But anytime the para 1's in there, it is trickier. Because it's like and you have a medication. So it's like kind of 3 times we have to talk about. So like I always use thyroid medicine as an example, because that's a really common one that people take. But so a lot of times people will wake up in the morning, take their thyroid medication. You want to wait at least an hour or 2 if you can, and take para 1. And then, so, I don't know what time people get up and such, but you just want to, that's what you would do. And then wait at least 30 minutes after pair one and have the rest of them. Somebody that's taking an evening medication, remember that if you need to, and we do want to keep medications away from the other supplements too. And a lot of reason for that is because it can make them more potent, make them work better. And so that, you know, if you're taking blood pressure medication or if you're taking thyroid medication or whatever it may be, and starts working better, then that might affect, right, how you're handling it. So that is one thing to consider, keeping it away from that. This schedule is an, you know, idealist suggestion, but it can be moved around. Like I told y'all before, if you need to take if you need to take these evening ones, back that up into like 3 o'clock. You know, that's fine. Like if you took these morning ones, say at 10, I'm just making that up, and you took your evening at 3, that's not a problem. It's better to get them all in, even if the timing is a little earlier or later than you need to be. Even if this para one, if this is just not working out at bedtime because you've got your evening and you got your bedtime and you got your medication and your, you know, or you've got your supplements that you take at night and it's just too much. If you need to move that up earlier in the day, like a late afternoon, you could do that too. It would be better than not taking it because you just can't figure out the schedule. Does that make sense? And if not, if anybody needs to kind of work through a schedule, you're feel free to come on and we can talk it through, because I know it gets tricky. Okay, Julie said there were a couple of days that I had some tummy cramps and then passed biofilms or something significant shortly after during phase 2. Yeah, that can happen, right? Sometimes it might be, and that's, I think we kind of talked about that from the get-go in the beginning, is that sometimes when things are getting really bad, it can be on the precipice of passing something. It could be. It may not always be. It just might be like, oh, this is just a crummy, you know, a crummy valley while I'm going through this. But sometimes it can be because you're about to pass something. And I think I told y'all before, you know, I know somebody that went through it and she would get right before she was about to pass something, and she didn't know this until it happened. She'd get very emotional and agitated, like unusually for her. And she's like, what is going on? And then the next day, like, you know, lots of things came out. So that can happen.
Chelsea,
Yes.
can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Sure. No, yes.
On the para 3 and on the what you're showing right now, it shows 10 drops, but in the description it started at 5 and it went up to 25. Do you recommend doing if you tolerate it, continue to go up, or do you recommend a 10 a day?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because one thing I meant to say is you might even consider starting a little bit lower, like at 5 drops, you know, maybe half of this dose just starting out, or maybe if you're very, very sensitive, like my very, very sensitive people, I would even start slower than that. If you're kind of like cast iron stomach like me, I'm just like, bloop, I just do it. Maybe it's not always right, but supplements just don't, I'm not sensitive to things like that. And so I'm going to push it. I would just start right away with it. But if you are kind of worried about it, feel free to start a little bit lower. And if you're tolerating it well, you can absolutely kick it up. And like you heard Don say in that podcast, like he was one that was kicking it up. And that's, if you tolerate it, and you want to really see what your body can do and handle, yeah, you can experiment with increasing it. And you can do that with any of these, honestly. So like Christy and husband, if you were like, well, I'm not seeing anything, or things are feeling okay, and you're tolerating it well, you could kick up any of the paras. Dose up to kind of that if you go back to the dosing chart, the advanced dosing, You could do that and see. And then it may not feel too
Well,
hot.
It won't last for a month then, right?
It won't. It won't. And
That's okay.
That's
Okay.
okay. If you're just kind of putting the pedal to the metal and you get there faster. Now, if you were dosed up and you continue to see a bunch of things coming out, then you might, order the step again. But otherwise, you might just get through a little faster if your body can tolerate it.
Would you order the whole step again or just the para 3?
You're probably not going to run out of para 3. I was thinking more like para 2 or para 1, but you could, yeah. You could just order what you ran out of, but you need to make sure and have, the a binder and your drainage products right alongside it. Whatever that drainage product is where you are, like the Tuca and whatever binder you have.
So can I ask a question? I actually have like put the para 1 and the para 2 together and taken them both doses in the middle of the night. So that because it's hard to time things, right?
Sure. So like wake up in the middle of the night, like, well, I might as well yeah, you could do that. That's fine.
And that would just take care of both doses, right? It wouldn't be like, if you double up, it's not like you have to have it in the morning and you have to have it at night. It's okay to double up and then.
Oh, you mean do it all at one
time.
I see. Do all of it. Yeah. I mean, I think there is something to be said just about kind of spacing it out and trying to catch it. But you could do that. If that's the way you make it happen, that's okay. I think ideally we introduce it at different times of the day.
Okay.
Ideally, if you can make that happen. But again, if that's the way that it's going to make it happen for you, then that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, but I have to leave.
Okay. All right. Well, keep us posted if you need anything.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, sure thing. Yeah, that's not a bad idea too for some people that have trouble taking a night, for somebody that gets up and goes to the bathroom. You're like, oh yeah, here's a nice free time where I don't have any food on my stomach and I can take it. That can work too. That is fine. Okay.
Yeah, Chelsea,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I could not find my unmute button when you were asking me. I was the one that asked the question about the medication.
Yes.
So I have to take the morning and evening, it's seizure medicine. So what I've been doing is taking it like 6:30 in the morning and then at least an hour to an hour and 15 before I take the next, like the binders and everything else. And then I take, the para 1 and para 2.
Okay.
And then I wait the 30 minutes to eat. And then I take all the other stuff at that time. So is that kind of similar? And then I did move, like you said, the next round of my para 1 and 2 is like 3:30, 4 o'clock. So it's on an empty stomach again.
Yes.
Wait, at least a half hour before I take the other binders and whatnot. Then I eat dinner. Then I take just some other like magnesium and my seizure medicine again before bed.
Yes.
So will it be similar then?
That's a great way to do it. Yes.
Okay. Other question, just while I've got my unmuted here, that para 3 I missed. Did you say start with like 1 drop or?
If you are somewhat sensitive, you might just the first day do 5 drops.
Each time?
Yes, each time.
Okay.
Or even, you kind of know yourself. And if you've been going through this and having kind of a rough time, then I would definitely at least start with 5 drops each, or maybe just even one time a day, just once a day, and just see how you do.
Okay. And one last kind of like crazy question. I saw someone ask on the group like feed about their mom or someone having shingles. And I actually have a doctor's appointment this afternoon because there's a chance that I may have that. And if I do, or even if you get sick and you get put on an antibiotic or an antiviral or something like that, do you power through this? I think the question was like, is this good for it? Was that the right take on that? So I was just thinking was just on my mind, so I thought I should ask.
Well, she was asking, her mom had shingles. she's a nutritional therapy practitioner. And so she's got kind of her approach to shingles that she uses. And I'm sure she'd probably be happy to share it. I don't know what she shared, but she was just asking if bringing in Para 3 could be helpful. And I said, yeah, I mean, sure. I kind of, you can throw Para 3 at a lot of things. So that's what she was asking. But if you have to do an antibiotic, it would almost be better to pause and do that. Maybe, still take like a binder and just maybe some support. And then pick it back up after. But let me know what happens at your
Okay.
doctor.
Yeah, I will. It just made me think like there's so much going around right now and people are taking, different meds. And then this whole shingles thing has kind of thrown me for a loop. We shall see. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but
I hope it's not.
I know. Thank you.
I hope it's not. But yeah, check back in once you know, and let's troubleshoot that. Like, what if you do have to take something, like maybe what we want to do with that. Okay. Anything else? Oh gosh, it's already 2:30. Time flies. I was like, we don't have very many questions. What do we talk about? Well, there's always something to talk about, which is good. But any more questions about going into step 3 or wrapping up step 2 or any of the steps?
I did have a question. I didn't want to take up everybody else's time, but I don't know if you remember, I'm doing the expedited comprehensive. And so I never ordered phase 4, and I need to, and I know there's an A and a B, and I don't know what the difference is and which one I'm supposed to consider.
Okay. Let me look and think about that
Okay.
and get back to you in the group.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know if there's certain things that I'm going through that would help decide, or what my background as far as my health helps decide. I'm not sure what is the component that makes a decision.
I get A and B. I forget what's in each one offhand. I can go look though. Let me see. Which is which. I always get them backwards. Let's see here. I want to take it. Oh, I'm thinking. Okay. Phase 4A. All right. And then phase 4. Okay, yeah, it's just the same as optimize. One is they're really not that much different. One has metabolic activator, and so we think about metabolism, energy, supporting thyroid, mostly kind of energy and metabolism. And it has the CT biotic, which is they both have CT biotic, the probiotic. Phase 4A also has the Para 4, which is especially good for like candida yeast kind of stuff.
Did
So
you say
that-
candida?
Mhm.
I don't know if I have candida. I mean, I know, I don't know if you remember, I was stage 1 breast cancer a year ago.
Okay. That's right. Now that you remind me of that. I would probably go for B.
With B.
Mhm.
Okay.
With the metabolic activator.
Well, I'll go ahead and look at it more, and if I have any questions, I'll email you, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, iodine's super, super important for breast health.
Okay.
And it's one where we are, a lot of people are iodine deficient. And again, why I like
The metabolic activator, is that what you're talking about?
we talked about that earlier, remember? So you do want to kind of
Yeah.
go slow and slow with that one, for sure. But yeah, if you have any more specific questions when you get in there, you can put them in the group or let me know, or it's fine.
Okay. Okay, good.
Okay, somebody said, I've been feeling really tired. When should my energy come back? Step 3 or 4, and when done with the whole program? Oh, I wish I could tell you for sure. I don't, it's hard to say. It's hard to say for sure. I'm sorry, that's not really an answer you want to hear. It could be at any time, or it could be if it's dragging you down. Again, when we have the kind of detox symptoms, we think of the same thing, all the same things. If it's going on and on, if it's not like, oh, I was tired for a week, or I felt really bad for a week or two, and then I pulled out of it. I was bloated for a week, like Chris, and she kind of pulled out of it. If it's ongoing the whole time, then we need to think kind of through those troubleshooting tactics again. Do I need to reduce the dosage? Do I need to increase drainage? Make sure, pooping, all that kind of stuff. Do I need to maybe add in some of these detox supports? So those are always options. If you can play around with the dose and see if that helps, if it's ongoing. Because, again, not to be scary about step 3, some people do just fine, but it's a bit of more intense. The pair 3s can be intense, and so that may not help. But it could be fine for somebody. So anyway, just I want to be real, give you, real expectations of what could happen. But if that's, again, feel free if you want to ask in the group, or if you want to try to troubleshoot that more too in real time, then pop in the group and ask for sure. Okay. What do you mean when you say pair 3 is intense? Well, it's just very strong. And so it is one that can evoke a little bit of a stronger detox reaction for people. That pair 3 is one, if somebody's not going to feel good, it's, for some people, it can feel kind of fluish. It can feel kind of tired. It might be when you're about to pass something. And so again, it's like, it just can have that intensity like right before that, whether your stomach doesn't feel good, or like that one person I was talking about who had some kind of more intense like emotional feelings like that were a little out of the blue for her, like what is going on with me? And then the next day she kind of passed the mother load. It just is pushing a little harder. So hopefully, and again, some people are okay with it, but it's usually a time when it's like, oh, some people are like, oh. So again, start on the weekend if you can. Lower dose. You can start the other things first, like we talked about. Get those into your belt. Let your body get used to those. Then bring in the pair 3. Even if you start the other ones first and it's not a full week, just keep up with it. Once you do it for 3 weeks, and then you need to cycle off for a week. Again, because it's pretty potent. Okay. But you can certainly do half dose of that, like the 5 and the 5. I mean, there's been really, really sick people that can only handle like 1 drop. So just so you know, and then there's people that push it and do like 2 or 3 droppers full twice a day, right? Again, always that option too, to kick it up if you want to push it even more, if you're tolerating it well. All right. Okay, now you're all like, oh, I'm not looking forward to step 3. It sounds awful. It really may not be that bad. But like I said, it just is a time where more people, if you haven't felt something, tend to kind of feel some kind of ick briefly. So, okay. All right. Y'all doing a great job. Keep going. If you need anything, let us know in the group. And again, everybody appreciates when you share, right? Because it helps to see what other people are doing. So don't be shy about popping in and just saying, I'm starting sub 3, and like how you decide to do it. I'd kind of like to see how it's going. So if you decide to wait and bring it in, like wait a week and then bring it in, or if you're doing a half dose, just, and that works well for you or anything, like let us know. I think it's helpful for other people to hear that. All right. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you in person next month. But in the meantime, we'll talk in the group. Thanks, y'all, for being here. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for your good questions. I'll see you soon.